How we feed, fellas? We're back again with White Noise, and I am doing the intro again. I'm Zach. I'm here again with Analog Rick and Electronic Rick, uh, or Eric, as we know him, your usual host. But we're letting me kick this one off because I have a question for Eric. I have a question for Eric. I have questions 3. You must solve my riddles 3 to get this podcast going. So, Eric, earlier this week, or no, late last week, late last week, as of our recording this, decided that he wanted to run a 5K, 5 kilometers, which is like give or take 3.1 hamburger units, I think, right?
Yeah, that's right. 3.2 miles.
Freedom units.
Yeah. So, I have a few questions for you. First of all, what the fuck were you running from? And second of all, why would you do that? And I'll have a follow-up question once we get through these here.
All right. No, yeah. Well, welcome in, everybody. Thank you, Zach, for those questions. So I think what I was running from was obesity, mostly. And and that's a daily struggle, but I really wanted to put on a performance that day. But what I was running, while I was running, I think I felt like a plane, right? Like an old plane that just took off for the first time since like World War II. And I think I told Rick this too in person. And while I was flying, it was a good flight. It was like the best flight, frankly. So many flights. This one was the best until it wasn't. And when I was running, so I'm a plane and my foot is the wing, and the wing got a hole in it.
Weird looking plane.
Dude, my foot, I tore a muscle in my foot, I'm pretty sure. And halfway through the race. And so again, running from obesity. So to answer that question, to get that out of there. But then I tore a muscle in my foot, and then all of a sudden my hip started acting like my mom's old one that she got replaced, and so it wasn't working so good. And then the other hip started acting up. So I was like, dude, I was a wreck. So again, back to the plane analogy, my wing had a hole in it. The main fuselage of my plane had holes in it, so I was going down, but I was coasting pretty much, and I was just gassed, like my engines were out. So it was a tough experience. It was the first K I ever ran / walked, mostly walked. And it was a personal goal that I had probably for a couple years now. And I always told myself, I'll just do it, this year, that year, this year. And then this year, finally, since we have the Tough Mudder 15K coming up at the end of June here, us 3 do, I figured, why not try to get in shape cardio-wise and just throw myself into this 5K. And before I ran this one, I trained once and I felt blood in my mouth and I had to stop running. I'm not kidding. At 0.3 miles. That's the only training I had before this one.
I have to add something to your plane analogy. You were fucking flying with your landing gear out.
Yeah. No, yeah.
That's pretty low to the ground, it sounds like.
Yeah. Just in case.
So as a man who doesn't really run a whole lot, former basketball player here, current power lifter. There's no running in powerlifting, for any of you unfamiliar. So I just have to ask you. So what I do when I have to travel anything more than give or take, about a mile, do you know that we've invented cars, motors, 4 wheels? You start it up, you push the gas pedal, the bitch moves, and it'll take you 3 miles like no time. So could you maybe have just done that instead of doing this heinous activity of running a 5K?
Yeah. No, I do know they exist, cars. That is, and I've definitely only traveled that far by car. This is the first time I've ever traveled that far with my legs, intentionally, I should say. Like, there are walks, right? You go on walks, and you're like, oh shit, I walked 10 miles today or whatever. Except in Montana, I think that was a couple miles, but again, just walking. But running, I wanted to see how fast it took me to run 3 miles compared to a car, which is about a minute and a half, and this took me about 40 minutes. So about an average of 13-minute mile, right? Which was better than I thought I was going to be. Well, 12.97, by the way, in case anybody's out there. Specific number, so under 13. But who's counting? Anyway, so yeah, 40-minute mile, 40-minute for 3.2 miles. And but no, cars are great. Never will I ever give up a car or get on a bike, because I've tried bicycling too before, and that shit sucks. I think even worse, because if you don't have those thighs, man, and I'm sure, Zach, you have the thighs, and Rick, I'm sure you do too, but Jesus Christ, man, those fuckers burn.
I tell you what, Very short story before we can kind of get moving on here. Now, since you bring up cycling, I did do a similar silly thing last summer to you. So I have a buddy who's into cycling, but he's into cycling. Like last summer, a couple summers ago, like he did like a 100-mile race, right? Like this dude's riding like really long distances, and he goes, "Hey, like you should come out sometime and like bike with us like on a training ride." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'll go on a training ride with you." He's like, he's got an extra bike for me, all this stuff, like, actual kind of like race bike thing. I'm like, "Yeah, sure, fuck it, like bring the extra thing, and I'll bring a fucking helmet, and we'll ride bikes."
Sure.
And so I get there, I get to the meeting spot where we're gonna hang out, and I go like, "Well, hey man, like how long are we talking today? Like what how long are we riding?" And he's like, "Oh, I figure we do about 30 miles."
Oh my
So, dude, by the time I got back from those 30 miles, like I was cramping up like on the drive home and like everything. Like you are right. I got big ass legs from powerlifting for the last like 7 years. But god damn it, it's just not the same. Cause yeah, like that shit burns, dude. Like after a while, especially because like he wasn't here to fuck spiders, man. He was going. He was cooking. So like to try and keep up and not get lost, man, I had to push. It took everything I had, man. I came home, I sat on the couch. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get up. I think I'm gonna wake up, my legs will have fallen off. So yeah, cycling can be a fucking bear too.
Yeah, yeah. I have an electric bike, so analog Rick, electric Eric on an
Well,
electric bike.
yeah, so Rick's got the analog bike, I assume then.
Yeah,
No, I also have an
yeah. It
electric
kind
bike.
of ruins the whole fun of it, but I
Fuck
do
Yeah,
it.
want
we
to.
did.
I want to give out a shout out though to my running partners, which were my brother-in-law Cody and my sister Jessie. And I definitely was the anchor around their necks while they were running because they could have got a better time. They waited for me. They're champs, especially Cody. I will say he was I wouldn't say miles ahead because there's only 3, but like he was feet ahead, and he stopped and waited for us like a gentleman, and we finished the crossing line together. I was first because I just can't be last, even though I should have been. But no, it was a good time. I'm glad I got to do it with those guys, and I wouldn't do it again soon, but I'm looking forward to our 15K at the end of June here, and I'm sure we'll update you, the listeners, when we do that. But
Yeah, when
speaking of,
I drop
oops,
off the podcast, no, when I drop off the podcast, that will be our post Tough Mudder because I'm gonna fucking die. Like that, I'm gonna die. It's just that's I'm gonna die. So,
in memoriam.
R.I.P. Yeah. So you'll have to do a R.I.P. Zach
Well,
episode.
at least you know what you gotta train
Yeah,
for
that's
now.
true. Yeah, it was a good benchmark. I
Disgusting.
just know I can't go below. I can't get more. I can't get a higher number than what I just did that mile time. It's got to be better because if it's lower, man, Jesus Christ, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? But no. Speaking of running and doing silly fun things, Rick, you went to a protest a weekend or so ago, right? And that should have been fun. And I think we want to hear about that experience. I believe it was in Madison, Wisconsin. Is that correct?
Yeah, I went to visit our mutual uncle. Shout
Well,
out.
not mine though.
Oh yeah,
Just
I wasn't talking to you.
practicing
He's
for
looking
when
at
I'm
my.
dead, I see.
Yeah, practicing post Tough Mudder. Oh yeah, I don't know. I don't know if fun is the right answer. Just high stakes. It felt like, but it was cool to see so many people there in Madison. Like the Capitol building was surrounded by people, all peaceful. Plenty of hilarious signs.
How much did you get
The
paid?
streets were
How much? What
full.
was your check from
Oh
George
man,
Soros? Like, are you rich now, or like, what's the deal with that?
I had to. I'm still
Son of a
waiting
bitch,
for it.
huh?
They did promise it though. Elon said I should be getting some from Soros
If
any
this
day.
podcast was nationally recognized right now, you know how many people would aggregate what we just said, like clip farm it, and be like, "See, they
Oh,
said it."
God. Hey, maybe they will. Go
yeah.
ahead and clip farm this.
Yeah, get
Go
us
ahead and
out there.
take it. Fuck
We
all
need
of
it.
you.
No, but funny
Yeah.
signs and things like that.
Yep. There's a lot of really good speeches too. They had what was it, like I don't know, some granny musical group that came to like and changed songs of like of some of the classically considered like more of a patriotic song or whatever, and they changed the words to be funny. I can't remember any
Sure.
of it now, but it was good. And actually, like it was it was multiple of our family members, not just aunt and uncle. It was aunts and uncles, cousins. Lots of people came. I don't think I'm gonna name drop because just in case shit gets worse in
Yeah.
this country. But I appreciate all of you guys coming and having us at your house, and it was
Yeah,
great. It
I
was a lot
think,
of fun.
and you and I talked about that too, after the fact. I think the idea of us being around, not necessarily just family members, but maybe in environments, where we live now, or how we grew up and things like that. It had to have been such a refreshing, kind of an enlightening experience to just kind of go somewhere where it's like your ideas and your kind of perspectives on things are either A, heard just for the sake of like being respectful, or like B, like, oh yeah, no, I can identify with that, on the reciprocal end. And you guys can actually have an engaging
Yeah.
conversation without somebody shutting it down and be like, well, it's all rigged, it's all stupid, it's all this. It's like, no, we can actually have a dialogue about this without it leading to an argument, which is something that I'm used to, at least. I don't want to speak for you, but
No, that's pretty accurate. Yeah, I was a black sheep among black sheep, which was nice. And I don't know if you want to shout out the stats here, but there was 13 individual protests across 50 states.
1,300,
Estimated 1,300. What did I say?
You're a little short.
Whoops.
Yeah,
There's more than that.
there was 1,000 times more than that.
Sorry.
Yeah. 5 million protesters, not just five, across those 1,300 protests, including 2,000 in St. Cloud and Anoka, Minneapolis, and Brainerd. And yeah, it was a like I can attest to that. It was a huge fucking turnout. Like it was way bigger than the last one that we all went to, and it gave me a glimmer of hope.
Is like the last one we
in
went
these
to.
trying times.
The last one we went to, I don't want to downplay it because it was whatever. It's good. It's good that people were getting out there. I think it's good that I'm happy that the three of us went. The one on International Women's Day, but this one, like, and even on International Women's Day, there was a ton that were going on across the country. Probably, more. I don't know if there was any more going on in our state or not, but this one, I mean, orders of magnitude larger. Again, all 50 states, like, and it wasn't just one organization organizing these, in all of these towns and cities. Um, I was shocked, kind of like, so in Minneapolis, I mean, where I live, like, dude, it's blue as shit down here. It's a very liberal area. Minneapolis is why Minnesota is blue for the most part. The Twin Cities area is why we're blue.
Yeah.
But to see
Yeah.
up in our, I guess I can call it the three of us kind of all grew up around there, right? In St. Cloud, the fact that there was thousands of protesters up and down the streets in dark red St. Cloud, you know, the fact that there was people in dark
Yeah.
red Brainerd out in the streets, and those are just a handful of, ones that I saw, that I had a few friends that were going to. I wasn't able to get to any of these, and I'm really kind of upset about it, actually. Because like this one looked like a real banger. I know there's going to be more. I think there is one. I wish I could shout it out better. I'll try and find some stuff on it. But April 19th, there's another big nationwide protest. So if we can keep having shit like this, these hands-off protests were fucking wild. Yeah. No, super cool. I was kind of jealous that you could make it out to one of them because that is what protests should look like, man. That looked like a banger from all the pictures and videos I saw.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it would behoove us all to try and get
Dude,
to
Yeah, I
another
agree.
one. And
The three
keep the
no,
fight
the
up.
three of us also, like, the three of us going is really cool. It's a lot of fun. Like, I have a good time with you guys. And if you guys make it over to Minneapolis one, we can go to the Scientology Cafe.
Man,
Yeah.
you're really pushing.
I'm just saying, I need to know. I need to know what's in there. I need to know if the coffee is good. I need to know if I'll, like, wake up chained to a radiator in the fucking basement. Like, why is there a cafe in the Scientology church? Oh, I had no idea.
Dude, that's how they get you,
Yeah.
man.
You come in for a latte and you stay to get your identity stolen.
Yeah.
Yep. You end up giving them a lot.
I
Got 'em.
just, I'm, I'm,
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that. I think one of our talking points when we were leaving that International Women's Day protest, or the protest that fell on that day, one of our talking points was we hope that the engagement of these protests are continue, or if not grow. And I think that, now we have evidence to support that maybe that is the case, and that this is going to continue to be a theme that we see across the country where, this isn't just something that people are going to get like, oh, whatever, it's the government, it'll be over in 4 years. It's like, no, this is actually something that that people are going to start taking more seriously, even if they weren't involved in politics. I mean, someone like me, right? Like where I wasn't necessarily engaged in politics, um, for a while, like you guys were necessarily. And, now that I'm kind of finding out more, I mean, Christ, I came alive in that one episode where I realized there can be certain types of corruption. And, you kind of saw my ignorance crack
Yeah.
away a little bit. So,
I
but
yeah, I remember what you're talking. That was a good one. That was fun.
so sort of things like that. And then now I've been to my first protest. I ran my first 5K, and things like that, not necessarily related, but I just want to say that maybe people are growing to the idea like, okay, I'm educated now enough to know that, hey, this seems like a big deal, and I want to be on the right side of history, where I want to, I can say to people like, no, I did my best and it did cause change. Or if, God forbid it didn't, you can always say, I tried my best. And that's at the end of the day, that's all you can do.
Right.
So that's exciting. That's very encouraging as someone like me that's just kind of coming into this. And I'm sure for your guys too, that's kind of been seeing this trend. Maybe the engagement hasn't necessarily been there for the last couple of years. Who knows? But um, yeah, no, it's exciting to see.
100%, man.
Yeah, I definitely think people are waking up. And it's really hard to ignore the fact that your 401k is dropping by massive amounts or whatever. I think that was definitely a big part of why people are starting to pay attention. Like, hey, wait a minute, this is affecting me directly now. Shit's gonna start costing more. All of this stuff happening is just like, wait, he said prices were gonna go down, and they haven't. Nothing's changed. It's just worse. Yeah, it's too bad that it had to get to this point to trigger that in people, but it is sort of a breath of fresh air that it's finally happening, even with people on the right. Like, this isn't what I voted for, or even though like we told them that it was the whole time and they did it anyway, but that's beside the point. Like, they're changing their minds, and I think that should be applauded when someone changes their mind, because society says that that's a bad thing and you should fucking dig your heels in and not change your mind, especially never admit that you were wrong or
Yeah.
whatever. So I think this is progress of a kind. I definitely want to see more, but it's there.
You
So
take what you can
that's
get,
something.
man. Like, you take what you can
Yeah.
get. The one thing I was thinking of kind of while Eric was talking about like his, I don't know, political awakening, we'll call it maybe. Which honestly, I think this podcast has watched happen in real time because we kind of started out as just like, let's just be a bunch of white dudes with microphones and be goofy as shit. And then all of a sudden we're talking nothing but politics because everything's going fucking insane and whatever, blah, blah, blah. Here we are, right? But the
Yeah.
one thing that like I kind of want to point out is I think a lot of people don't get into politics and they don't get involved because they see it either as this big, giant, messy, hard to understand thing, or they see it as like fucking boring. They're like, I don't want to talk about taxes. I don't want to talk about like about who should pay for healthcare, and I don't want to argue about like traffic laws or this or that, regulations. That all sounds so fucking boring, but it doesn't have to be that way, right? Politics is a giant fucking thing. Okay, and like even the three of us here, like, I'll be honest, like, if you think we sound smart, we're putting on a pretty good face because, like, I don't feel like I know shit, and I think you 2 probably have in the back of your head, like, there are people that know orders of magnitude more about government than we do, and I think the 3 of us do a pretty good job
Yeah.
trying to stay up to date, trying to think through this shit, and trying to research the things that matter to us. But that is kind of what it comes down to is look, if you're a person who is dipping their toes in and for some reason you fucking found us, my advice to you is just to find the shit you care about, right? Maybe it's literally at a level of your city or your town or your county or just the state, right? Like find a few things that matter to you that you want to change and learn about those things, learn about why they are, how they are, get involved with the movements that want to change them in the way that you want to change them and go from there. I mean, I started a lot of my stuff and continue a lot of my stuff because healthcare was a big deal for me, right? Healthcare is a big deal for me. Income inequality's been a big deal for me. Throwing people in fucking prisons, blah blah blah, is a big deal for me. And I think that comes, it's just I don't know how I was raised, I guess, or something. The music I listened to probably had quite an effect on me as a child, if I'm honest. But that's what I would say is just find the stuff that you care about and start there. And if it never grows any further, that's fine. But if you finally, or if you somehow find yourself getting involved at greater and greater levels, that's fantastic. I think the one thing that countries that take all the control that everyone's afraid of and countries that start bending over their citizens, they need their citizens unaware of what's going on, which is why you see through history governments doing shit in the shadows, and hiding things or doing whatever to try and keep it from the public. So, the more engaged you are, again, maybe it's just a matter of I want to overturn this weird regulation in my county, or I need this regulated in my county because I think this is wrong. You want to help homeless people, whatever it is, and if that's your only thing, that's fine. But sometimes it grows, because it can be exciting with things like with these protests and finding these communities of like-minded people. It can really get it can get pretty interesting pretty fast, I think. Big E-Dog. So I mean that's a thing too. So no, here let me I kind of have an interesting thing to pose to you. So let me grasp the driver's wheel firmly here.
Sure
Firmly
can.
and just stroke it. Feel the leather beneath my fingers a little bit. It feels powerful. But no, so I'm kind of curious though too, and we've talked about this before a little bit. And it's relative to the outline here that we have in front of our faces. But what was I don't know if there was a delineation line, right? But like I guess the question that I always see posed in like meme form, so I guess I'll do it that way, is like what radicalized you guys, right? Because like I know where I came from. I think I kind of know where I came, whatever. But can either of you guys kind of find either a point or maybe a trajectory that led you kind of to here, kind of to a situation where you're willing to every week get together with two of your homies and just talk about and bitch about politics, you know?
Yeah. Eric, do you want to go
Do you have
first?
something
Or?
on your mind? Okay, yeah, you
Yeah.
got it. I have two, but I can formulate it better.
So here, like with my situation is, I remember vividly to this day sitting in like I think it was 10th grade U.S. civics class or whatever the hell it was called, and my teacher was describing the political parties, and and like after he was done, he was like, "Oh, I'm a Democrat. I think people should get help when they need it, and rights are rights, and everyone should be treated as equals and whatever." I'm like, yeah, that makes sense to me. And I remember telling that to my girlfriend at the time, and she almost fucking broke up with me.
My God.
She's like, "Oh no." I was like, "What? What did I do wrong?" "You can't be a Democrat." I'm like, "Okay. Why?"
Yeah, what?
And I had no idea. I thought that was the common sense
Mhm.
answer.
Sure.
Like giving a shit about people, the government's a service, these things that just seemed to make sense to me. Not pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you're just a temporarily embarrassed billionaire. One day you'll be a rich guy. Like that is like, no, that's not how real life works. Like I've seen enough in my short time on this planet way back then that I was like, no, that's not been my experience, and I don't think it will be. And that particular set of events sort of sprung to mind when you asked like what radicalized you. Now, what made me decide to do this podcast and get super political? First off, was the first time Trump got elected, and I got drunk screaming at my TV on election night when I saw the
Yeah,
results.
that was a good
Uh,
one.
that was a big one way back in 2016. And then 9 fucking years later, we're still here.
God.
We had the opportunity. I was telling myself this today. We had the fucking opportunity to be done with that man forever. Done. Never hear from him again. And we're here. And he has all the levers of power. And he's being an asshole with them, just like we knew he would. And it's like, God damn it. I guess I got to start fucking fighting again. I got to pay attention. Like I don't want to pay attention. I liked it when Sleepy Joe was in office and I could worry about my other shit. I had more bandwidth in my fucking head. We could talk about crazy shit and other things on this podcast. You know, I could worry about my yard and maintenance shit and whatever the fuck else I wanted to worry about. Maybe playing guitar once in a while. Fun things. And I can't do that when Trump's in office because I don't know what the fuck he's going to do next.
Yeah.
So, long story long, there you have it.
It was interesting. So, was that quick question, I guess, because I know Eric had, I want to hear Eric's too, but like, that girlfriend, was it a thing where her parents were just conservative? So, by extension, she was like, I'm
Yes.
also conservative because
1000%. That's what it was. Because like she went to college and we went our separate ways, whatever. And she 180. She was not the same fucking person after
well,
that.
because
Like that person no longer existed that I was dating. She's just gone.
and goddamn liberal schools.
Yeah, yep. So that was the thing. But like yeah, it was 100% her parents, and I don't imagine that they've changed.
Most of them don't.
But yeah, no, and whatever, you know, that's a whole other can of worms. But like, yeah, that was the case there, and I imagine that's what it's like for a lot of conservative kids.
Oh yeah,
You
they
know,
get out of the house.
like they don't think about it. Yeah, it's the same thing with like religion. Like, well, why are you Christian? Well, my parents are.
Right.
Next,
Grew
next
up going
question.
to church, and that's just how it is.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Big Eric, I know
You're up, Eric.
witnessed I think we witnessed your real awakening, I think live on this podcast. I think you can go back and listen to that episode, but what radicalized Eric?
I think similar to Rick in a way where you just kind of you hear about, you know, like the oh yeah, the right to choose and the you know, and the equality and all the stuff that kind of are like the buzzwords and, you know, and all that, and you're like, oh yeah, that just clicks with me. And then unlike Rick, my girlfriend at the time was extremely liberal and allowed me the space to grow and learn. Like I wouldn't say it was just her, but like she kind of had more what am I looking here for? She had the resources for me to kind of expand knowledge into the you know, things to be a Democrat. And so I started going to like our schools that she put on, like the GSA, this Gay Straight Alliance thing or whatever. And then we would go there, and I would learn a lot. And you know, coming from a you know, a household where I don't necessarily think it was talked about a lot, but you kind of knew who your parents were at that point. But and then just learning things like yeah, all of this makes sense, and then going to them and trying to talk about it, and they're just like, you know, they it's not that they would speak negatively about it, but they would just like they wouldn't see where you were coming from, and it kind of was like, oh, oof, I don't know if I want to. I can't do that with you here. So you kind of just pull away a little bit. But then also I you know, you know, while this is all happening, while I'm kind of learning more and things like that, and I'm just kind of like, yep, this is checking all the boxes. This is making me like, this just makes sense. I also am looking around the school and seeing like a bunch of people go after or make derogatory remarks towards you know, kids that are you know, thinking they're gay and things like that, and like right to their face, or mentally handicapped kids and things like that. And you're just kind of like, that's not the right behavior, and that doesn't necessarily mean right or left, because there's shitty kids on both sides, I'm sure. But you kind of know in that moment who's who, and then you talk to them, because you know, this is going to be a long-winded story, so just bear with me. But like, you know, I was in football, and there's a kind of certain demographic that's in football, and you know, there's locker room talk, and you have that going on there, and there's this kind of like this natural boyhood activity or whatever. But I eventually made my way over to drama, where things kind of turned into this accepting, hey, let's talk about stuff, kind of weird, unnatural thing for me at the time. And as like a 16-year-old, I'm like, yeah, I am going through shit. Let's all talk about it. So you kind of have that free space to talk about stuff that you're going through, and it's like, oh shit, I didn't realize you guys had things going on at home too, or you're going through this mentally or whatever. But in football, it's like you're a fucking, you're this, that, and the other thing if you're not just a hard-nosed man about it. You know, even the coaches would talk like that, and you're like, yeah, that's just who I'm supposed to be. And I would say there's room for that in a sense, Like, you can be tough, but it's also okay to allow yourself those emotions and whatnot. So I'm like, okay, I can be emotional and like that. So then I'm like, okay, that makes sense. There's room for both. Why can't we have both? But then on the right, it's like, no, you can't have both. It's like, all right, well, I want both. So that's where I'm going. And so just like the unfairness, the targeting, the right, and then like the right to choose came up later in life, like, in college age, where, you kind of are presented with maybe like if this certain thing were to happen to you and your significant other, what are you going to do? Are you going to let religion dictate whether or not you're ready to have a family or not? Or are you going to do what's best for everybody involved? And, maybe just even talk about it, have the space to talk about it. And again, coming from a family where you can't talk about it, where it's strictly wrong, and you're done for as a human, if that were to happen, you just can't have that. So just to have that conversation was liberating. And it again checked a box for me. So I'm like, okay, this is just who I am. And again, that's who my significant other was at the time too. So that space was there to have these free conversations. And then I just kind of pulled away from the right, and then you just kind of find your own space, and you're like, okay, this is who I identify with. All that other shit that the right is talking about is crazy, and they're going after transgender people. They're dehumanizing them, and I know these people. Like, I'm friends with these people at this point in my life, in college and stuff. Like, that's not what that is. And you guys are spilling this misinformation. You're just full of shit. And I don't have any room for this nonsense. These are the people I went to high school with. You have a high school mentality because you just don't understand, and you're not choosing to want to learn about it. And that's the biggest problem. Like, you're denying yourself an opportunity to learn here because of what? Because it's different. And I just don't have any room for people like that. So that was it. And then I went away from it because of a breakup a little bit. And and then I kind of found my way back. I didn't actually go
Now
away from
here
it.
you are.
Yeah, and I just kind of took a break from it and then came back full strength.
It's interesting. It is kind of fascinating to hear you say, like, how part of it for you was the fact that a lot of these people that ended up leaning liberal, right, regardless of probably at the time those ideologies probably didn't matter at all or didn't necessarily cross your mind as much. It is interesting that, there's one group where, you got to be this way, fall in line, whatever, it's very rigid, and that you found on the other side, which would be the more liberal leaning side, uh, that you felt more free to just express yourself and be okay with who you are. Um, and I think that's fascinating, and I think that plays out, I think, a lot. I think you see a ton of people on the right that you kind of see in their eyes they wish they could be someone else, but they're conservative, god damn it, so this is just how it fucking is. um
Yeah.
yeah, that's actually, that's interesting to me, that was your thing.
Yeah, no, and I think even looking back on it with like a more of a educated lens, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it, like, you kind of are like, oh, that all makes sense. Like, that's just a path now, and you can kind of, like you said, you can kind of recognize it in other people now, maybe growing up, or people that didn't get that opportunity to have those spaces to grow in or to learn about themselves. And I do see that with old classmates who didn't get out of the house, so to speak. And they're just kind of like, I'm like, God, you guys are it's just unfortunate. Like, damn, you know what I mean? Shit, you guys missed out on something, but it's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. It's never too late, though.
No, it isn't.
Yeah.
It's never too late to get radicalized.
Yeah.
I think in both of our Eric and I's stories, I think the biggest thing is that giving yourself permission to ask the question. I think that because a lot of these, especially growing up in a more religious household, was some of these questions are you just discouraged from even asking. And you asking the question doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't dictate your morals because you asked a question. In fact, standing up against the wave of influence in your life and asking the question anyway is hard. And yeah.
No, it's
What about you,
well,
Zach?
what System of a Down. No. I would be lying if I didn't mention music. Like, not that that's the thing, but I like, dude, I grew up listening to System of a Down were my favorite band for years and years and years. I still love them to death. Them listening to Rise Against, Rage Against the Machine, a lot of these things growing up, a lot of this politically charged music, it has a non-zero effect. I understand there's a level of brainwashing there, and I admit it, but god damn it, the shit's so fucking good. Um, it goes so hard. But for me, so I guess for background, I didn't grow up, I knew you guys kind of had obviously a very similar upbringing. You're fucking brothers and grew up in a fairly religious conservative household. Um,
Hmm.
I grew up in kind of a split household, literally and figuratively. My dad's side is fairly conservative. My mom's side is fairly liberal. Um, but even within that, the way I was raised by my two parents, like post divorce and things, was different. So my dad would try and get me to go to church. I was in Boy Scouts for a long time because of him. I was, like he would encourage me to like listen to conservative talk shows and shit with him, which I didn't like. Glenn Beck was the one that I specifically remember that he's like, oh, you'll like this guy. And like 10 minutes in, I was like, this guy is like just fucking awful. And I just got up and left. I was like 14 and I was just like, this guy's a fucking moron. And I left. Not to say my dad raised me bad or that I dislike him. I have a great relationship with my dad. He's the reason I play bass. He's the reason I play basketball and have a love for that sport. He's still a lot of who I am as a person. Um, but that was, politically and religiously, I could not agree with him, especially because my parents were very young when they had me. So my mom really let me kind of figure it out for myself. So she never said anything like, oh, like the Democrats are good or gay people are good or, um, you should or shouldn't be religious or whatever, right? Because I went through stages of my life where I thought religion maybe made sense for me until it didn't, right? I did go through these stages where I probably leaned right more than I definitely do now, which is fucking I'm off the deep end in the left at this point. So I was able to explore that in my house, like within myself, and have conversations with my mom about that. Um, I think I've told like particularly this story before, but this is one that just like it really I think it really exemplifies how my mom kind of raised me and how she would let me kind of just figure it out. And I think it is the reason why I spend so much time in my own head kind of figuring out philosophical ideas. There was God, I had to have been like 10. Like I was really young. And we went to like her work's picnic or something, right? Me and my brothers, whatever. It was like a work picnic. We had fun. And I hung out for a lot of the day with one of her work friends. I don't remember his name at this point. I think I remember, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Super cool guy. Like I loved hanging out with him. I still have actually the first leather jacket that I ever owned that I thought was cool as shit, and this motherfucker is hideous, is still hanging upstairs in my house right now. All these years, like 2 decades later. And so I'm hanging out with this dude, whatever. We get home and my mom cooks dinner and we're all sitting around the dinner table because we would still have dinner like as a family, when I was younger, like all of us would sit down. At this point, my parents were divorced, so it's my mom, my two brothers, me, and we're just chatting. I was like, dude, I had so much fun hanging out with that dude today. I was like, that was just awesome. Like, I had a really good time. And she goes, oh, like, well, did you know he's gay? And I was like, well, no, I would have never guessed. And she's like, yeah, no, he's gay. Shares a house with his partner. They've been together for many years, whatever. This was pre-gay marriage, so they were whatever. Partners. They lived in the same house. And I was just like, oh, yeah, no, I never would have guessed that. And she goes like, yeah, no, so and that was like the end of the conversation. That was it. We kept eating spaghetti and like that was fucking, I ate a lot of spaghetti growing up because it's cheap. And I think like that moment is like really exemplifies how my mom would let me because she didn't say, "Oh, isn't he a good person? Isn't he normal? Isn't he whatever?"
Mm.
She let me say, "Yeah, no, I never would have been able to tell. He seems like just like anyone else." Right? And so it's through things like that, where again, like my mom particularly has let me wrestle with these ideas on my own. And sure, sometimes when I was younger, I came to some shitty conclusions. Um, I mean, shit, I told my dad specifically I wanted to move out of the country when I was like fucking 13 years old. That I fucking hated it here because, wars and this and that, and, we were funding like goddamn, like, God, something about selling guns to like some sort of horrible group in a different country that I was like pissed off about, like really way too young to probably fully understand the grasp of like geopolitical, like global politics. But yeah, I mean, over time, it just became a thing where I guess similar to Eric, where I kind of realized like, look, gay people are just like anyone else, or trans people, or a person of a different nationality. Like I grew up in a very very white town. I think I could literally count uh people of color on like one hand. We had a couple of foreign exchange students that were interesting to meet and speak to. But through I was able to talk to enough groups. I was friends with a ton of people that were gay or bisexual or whatever. Um, One of my very, very close friends growing up who I don't talk to anymore, like the last time I met them, they were trans, and that was just a thing, and it was fine. I didn't care. Um, so similar to Eric, it's just kind of that logical conclusion. I'm like, nobody, who gives a fuck? you know who gives a shit? These people, like, it has no
Right.
effect on my life. I still have homework to get done. I still have my girlfriend that I want to date. Nobody's stopping me from doing that. Whatever, right? I still have my aspirations and whatever. I just wanted to play basketball and play music and shit, man. Like, listen to System of a Down way too fucking loud. And they weren't stopping me from doing that. There's also, I think, a non-zero section of it where um I was bullied all through school, like just viciously, dude, all through fucking school. And so I think part of it is I know what it's like. I mean, yeah, I'm a white dude, whatever. I don't want to, whatever, but I know what it's like to kind of be stepped on. In some cases, fucking literally, right? I know what it's like to be pushed around literally, physically, and having to be like a cornered animal and fight back. And I think that experience helps me kind of extrapolate out to, well, these people that are less fortunate because the system is standing on their throat. That's not fair. And I don't want that to happen anymore. And who's doing it? Oh, it's the rich kid, just like the rich kids that fucking bullied me, right? It was the rich dickheads whose dad was a fucking lawyer and I couldn't touch him, blah, 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 whatever. So I think there's a level of that too, that kind of dude, it still lives in me. I'm 35 fucking years old almost, and it's still inside of me. It's still part of the reason I lift weights. It's part of the reason I get fucking angry sometimes. I think, like I think I just have that quick trigger to get pissed off sometimes, when I feel attacked like that. But again, I think it also helps me understand when people are getting stepped on. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think through all that and through being this way for legitimately like 20 years, like I said, I mean, I was like in my early teens when I started really watching shit. I mean, I remember vividly watching the returns of god, like the 2004 election, right? Like, because I didn't want baby Bush to be elected because I knew he was a piece of shit, because I was involved enough to know that I fucking hated that guy, and I remember watching the returns there and being disappointed from then on, so by 2008, I was like all in on Barack Obama, fundraise for his campaign, whatever. And that was the first election I got to vote in. The first thing I got to do as a voter was walk up and try to elect Barack Obama. So, um, yeah, I mean, I guess that's probably the big goalpost along the way for me, um, that lead me to right here, right here where, like Rick, I don't want to be here. I want this podcast to go back to talking about silly, goofy shit, but the world's a fucking shithole, Uh, like it's as good as it's ever been in a lot of ways. I get it, whatever, but yeah, I think you just got to fight to make it better. There's no reason not to fight to make it better. There's no reason not to fight, for those people that are getting fucking stepped on because it feels like shit. So yeah,
Right.
yeah, I don't know. I guess that's me, man. The long and short of it. I still remember
Yeah.
System of a Down's Toxicity album though. Tell you what, dude, it was every morning, like 6, 7 in the morning. I'd crank that fucker up loud as shit outside. I had a basketball hoop and it was jump shots right there, fucking 6 a.m. loud as shit until the album was over. Jump shot after fucking jump shot.
Yeah. It is cool that hearing the different sort of avenues we all took to ultimately land on the same page,
Yeah.
you know.
It is. I find stories fascinating like that, like those deep, right? I think this is a conversation that I think more people should have with each other, right? And I think this is cool that we have this platform. We can now have it with tens of listeners at the same time. Um, but yeah, no, it really is legitimately interesting to me to hear. Yeah, like we all are fairly aligned. I think we'd all fairly agree on most things, but yeah, and it's interesting because I mean, you guys came from a completely different household in a completely different, like you're from a rural area, and I grew up in a bedroom community for a city, like I grew up in an area like a suburb. Um, so yeah, it's just all these different circumstances that we still. I feel like the paths are almost similar in some ways. It's just the
Yeah.
triggers were a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, bless me. That one was rough. That one was rough. I've been drinking a soda pop, an adult soda pop, over here. An adult soda pop from Lupulin Brewing. Shout out from Big Lake. The Metal Health for Mental Health IPA that they brew for that
Nice.
show every year. Um, yeah, yeah, it's a good show for a good cause. I think they still do them in the summers.
I went to
I
that
only went to the
brewery.
first one though.
Oh,
No, go ahead. Go
nah, it's stupid. I just
ahead.
they have a bar named that or something like that in Uptown, Minneapolis, next to Uptown, which is also in Uptown, which
Oh,
is very confusing to plan an event there. And
up, down, and uptown.
yeah,
We
which
go
is
down.
actually
You
down.
do and up.
It's
It's
stupid
down
because
from you.
it's down, but downtown is up and Uptown is down from downtown.
Yeah, I suppose on a map. I don't know. I just follow the fucking roads. I don't know where the fuck I go. Like fucking, I go down. I go down to get downtown, so it all makes sense to me. I probably
Yeah,
go
but
further down to get to uptown, but
that's what
I
I'm
do go
saying.
down to get to downtown.
Yeah, Uptown is down from downtown,
Dude,
and
okay.
then
Oh
and
my
Uptown
God.
is downtown is down is down from
Don't hurt yourself.
downtown,
Don't hurt yourself.
I quit the
but
podcast.
it's in Uptown. I hate
I'm
it.
glad to know I'm glad you know your way around Minneapolis.
It fucking sucks, man. It sucks.
God damn it, Zach. Yeah, I suppose on a map.
What am I supposed to say
Jesus
on a fucking?
Christ.
Where else would it be? Oh shit.
What?
On
I
Earth.
I'm just happy we got the chance to go to Uptown, because I got to whoop Eric's ass at NFL Blitz, and then playing death ball with Rick was fucking. I almost threw up laughing. Like fucking, I wanted like my fucking tummy hurt bad after we were playing that a few rounds.
That is the game that I am the worst at.
So good though,
I'm so bad.
so good though.
But I wanted to keep playing, but I was
You
fucking
just keep
awful, man.
owning yourself. You just keep fucking killing yourself.
Yeah. I could play against no one and lose.
Yeah, that game.
Oh, it's so good. It takes a lot. I've played a lot of death ball, dude. It takes a long time to like get decent at it. It's fucking hard, dude. It's not an easy game.
I didn't know there were more levels. That's how bad I
Oh
am.
yeah, yeah. There's more levels. There's more
Yeah.
levels, but only two little wizards.
So is that game an
Two little-
updated game? Like, was it made recently, but in a retro kind of theme?
Yeah, I don't know how
Yeah.
recent is recent, but yeah, like it's a more modern game. Um, like I told you, like I told you guys there, I think. I wanted to buy that game or find a way to have it like in my house. And last time I looked, which was a few years ago, it is only available as like an arcade, like a cabinet style game. And last I looked, they were like $5,000 and they were like 3 years out on a waiting list. Like it's insane. So like I figure like, oh, they must have ported it over to like a game console or something so I could just have it whatever on my Xbox or my PlayStation. But
Yeah.
no, not last I looked. They're keeping that one close to the chest right now.
Suppose $5,000 a pop. You know what I mean? Why would they sell
Dude,
for
if
50 on
I
the console?
well, if I go to a few of these, if I go to a few of these protests and get those George Soros checks, maybe I can get myself a death ball. I'll buy
Yeah, man, that's what I'm gonna buy. That and gym equipment.
one. Dude, right? Being more swole is never. It's never. There's no downside to it at all. Like you look hotter, you lift heavier stuff, which is cool, and everyone's impressed by it, no matter what they tell you. Uh, I don't know. There's I don't see any downsides to being fucking jacked. I really don't.
If you're super jacked, do you sweat as much as a super fat person? Not fat
I think
shaming
there's
either,
a
just
point.
curious.
I think there is a point. I mean, if you think about it, like if you're hauling around 300 pounds of like muscle or
Yeah.
300 pounds of fat. Like if you're an overweight more out of shape individual, like, yeah, it's harder for you to haul all that around. But at the same time, like 300 pounds is kind of 300 pounds,
Yeah.
and it's all kind of extra tissue. So, yeah, I feel like there's a crossover point. Like, I don't know, like, I don't think where I'm at, like, I'm like a 210-pound guy. So I don't think I sweat as much as a not as in shape 210-pound guy. But if I was
Mm.
275 pounds, I think maybe there's a crossover there. And this is all
Sure.
anecdotal from me touching sweaty guys in the gym. I've touched just various shaped and sized sweaty men in the gym over the years. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, the gym is an interesting place, man. Like the locker room especially. And we don't need to get into it, but I mean there are some fucking
You can if you want to.
That's where you're gonna leave.
I feel like it in the last 4
Anyway.
minutes that we have here, I just kind of want to talk about it.
I love the locker room, especially the men.
The trauma that happens there to your eyes. I'm starting to sound like Christopher Walken. But you sometimes there's a dick and you're like,
There it is.
hello, how are you? Anyway, but no,
God damn it.
yeah, man, there's some fucking hammers in there, but also some fucking doorknobs. I mean, some doorbells. And
Fucking goddamn girth master letting it all hang out after a fucking couple of rounds of pickup ball.
yeah, and you're like, I know there's a Tom Segura joke out there, but it is accurate. Like they should not be walking around with that level of confidence. But I think their give a fuck meter's broken, and similar to the fat guy and heavy and like in shape guy, there is a crossover point where age and confidence kind of, you know what I mean? Like they just meet at the give a fuck meter, and it breaks. And you just got some fucking doorbells walking around next to the hammers, and they're both
fucking dude. That's the thing.
They're all beautiful.
It's dude. The gym welcomes all of you, whether you got a tiny dick, whether you got a fucking absolute goddamn sledgehammer, whether Eric is afraid of it or not, you're welcome in the gym. Like the weights are the same weight for everyone. Tiny dick like me, big dick like some of these other guys.
I'm pretty sure they put hand soap in the showers at my gym, by the way. For the shampoo dispenser.
Up.
Yeah.
That's
pretty
fucked
sure.
Up. You gotta. It's not even.
And the janitor didn't give a fuck.
He's like, I don't know, it's fucking soap. Fuck you.
Soap is soap.
What do you mean clean the showers? The shower cleans me. Fuck.
Ooh.
I'm not gonna clean the fucking showers.
Speaking of cleaning in the shower, do you guys wash your feet regularly every time you shower? Rick, don't answer. Zach, I want to hear yours first.
No, water takes care of it.
Oh.
Amen. Because I know Rick does.
Disgusting individual, but the water
Rick bends
takes care
over.
of it.
Rick bends over and watches his little feetsy weetsies.
That doesn't surprise me one bit. I live with that motherfucker. We talked about it on the podcast before. Me and Rick lived together. That fucking guy. The number of times that like you would.
Guys, I'm still here.
Hey, so Rick, Eric, let me tell you about your fucking degenerate brother that I hate now. Just kidding. I love Rick. He was in my wedding. And then he paid me to be in his, and I said a lot of nice words about him. I wore a dress for you.
Paid you in beer.
Yeah, I wore a dress for you, Rick.
Yeah, but I'm the weird one.
Yeah. This might be a cover.
Yeah. I don't know, dude. I pulled the dress off. I'm saying it. I pulled that fucker off. Little off the shoulder action.
And then you were naked.
Yeah.
It did work.
That's true.
Yeah.
No, you did.
Dude, I fucking.
You were hot.
It was pretty hot. I don't know. I think you would have fucked me if it was later in the night. I could have snuck you back. Like once it was later in the night, I could have snuck you back behind the fucking behind the little boathouse there, and we could have fucking.
I think at some point in time there's a stopping point, right? Like you figure it out. You see Big Zeke Jr.
Yeah, he starts feeling around and only finds fucking mangina.
All right.
Fucking old Greg in real life. I just come out of your fucking pond there and just like, what are you doing in my waters?
Oh God. Yeesh. Well, if you're still listening out there,
can you learn to love me?
Happy first
I'm
episode.
old Greg. I got all things that are good. I'm a
Oh,
scaly
gee.
manfish.
I don't even know what that's from.
What do you think of me? You've never seen old Greg?
No.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Eric, I'm about to fucking change your entire life. Your entire outlook on just everything.
We'll post the video in the description.
Yeah, we'll link in the description for old Greg if I can find one. Yeah, dude. I don't know. That's what I'm ending on. Last words right here. Go watch old Greg if you fucking haven't. That's it.
Drink Bailey's from a shoe.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys later.